To get your product on the market in the US, obviously you need to go through the US FDA and get their approval or clearance to be able to market your product. The FDA is split into three basic groups. You have a biologics group, you have a devices group, and you have a drugs group. And each of those parts of the agency have different aspects and different ways that they look at things. One other piece that goes along with that is the combination products group. So when it's a product that contains more than one of those things, there's a separate group and office of combination products that it goes through as well, and they coordinate then the effort between those groups. So there is a lot of work that has to be done to gain that clearance. Also with that is going to be the need for some clinical evidence generally to gain the approval. And most companies will default to that they need to gather the clinical evidence in the US. While that's an easier path, you don't necessarily need to do that. If you're on the market in your own country and we can gather some clinical evidence and provide that to the agency to help gain that clearance, that's invaluable in doing so. And then the last piece that I'll talk about is really you need to have some US help. Obviously, living here in the US, it's easier for us to understand the regulations, just as it is for the Europeans and other people when you live in your own country, understanding how the regulations work. But you're going to need some direct US entities, whether or not you want to establish that yourself or you want to hire somebody to do that. Christina mentioned contract manufacturers in the Minneapolis area, and that's a big area for that. There's more than 400 contract manufacturers that can help you make your product here in the US so that you don't have to worry about the import and import duties and so forth, import difficulties. You're going to need a US agent to represent you as the manufacturer's legal manufacturer. Even when you don't actually make the product, you're still considered the manufacturer and have to do some things like regulatory reporting of adverse events and complaint handling and so forth. And so those are the few things that I can give you in just these couple of moments that we have. There's so much more to it that that goes into the details. It's why you need to engage a regulatory expert.
And Mark, what advice do you give companies coming to the US? Is there a better place to come into the US than Boston? Not that Boston isn't a great place, but there does seem to be, from everything we've heard from the other regional development boards, some fantastic opportunities.
We kind of pick on each other back and forth in the various regions. You got, that eastern area that's centered around Boston. You got an area that's centered around Los Angeles. But Minneapolis certainly is a hub of that. To give you any indication, as I pick on people from out east, Boston Scientific's biggest expansion right now is a campus that they're building in Minneapolis. And so these are some of the things that are happening here. We have regular interfaces with the Medical Alley Association and talking about the investments that are coming into Minneapolis because you have that strong industry group that will bring you. The last piece of advice that I'd give you is include the regulatory and quality people in your initial discussions. Don't wait a long time to get that, because investors and VC people are looking for some confidence that you're going to be able to gain approval. If you haven't thought through the regulatory pathway and understand the need for a quality system, they're going to be skeptical of what you're doing. So include us up front, add us to your pitch deck, make sure that you have a couple of pieces of understanding of what your regulatory pathway is going to be.